Think of leadership as a position. I see it as a skill, a tool that all of us have to have. In other words, the quality of your life, I really believe, comes down to your level of leadership. Other people don't have to follow you to be a leader, but you have to live life on your terms. And the first person you have to influence is yourself. Whether you're fit or fat, whether your kids are on drugs or not, is who has more influence, the guy on the street corner or you. Whether you're fit or fat is, can you influence your own hands, your own body, your own mind to do what's necessary? So I think to be able to influence the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, and the actions of another human being, that's what leadership is. And quality leadership, obviously authentic leadership, is one where it's servant leadership. You're looking to influence those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and actions for a greater good, not just for yourself. And I think the people that master that are the people that you know about. I mean, they're captains of industry. They're people that are celebrities because they've learned how to influence people. They are some of the greatest teachers, some of the greatest scientists, because you can't just come up with ideas. Ideas will die on your lips unless you become a person of influence, and that's what leadership is. If you look at a business, the chokehold on the growth of any business is always the psychology and the skill set of the leader. And it's 80% psychology and 20% mechanics, meaning so many small businesses, the owner might be an incredible innovator. Maybe they write incredible code. Maybe they're a tremendous influencer, but they don't know the economic side of their business, right? And they find themselves getting in trouble because somebody's giving them financial information after the fact. They don't have true financial intelligence to make decisions, and they get caught up. I had several companies early in my career that were near bankruptcy because I would sit down and I knew how to produce products that would change people's lives. I knew how to market. I knew how to build teams of people, but what I didn't know was finance. So I'd look and say, okay, how are we doing? I go, oh, you got a great, you got a 20% profit. You got $2 million in profit in those days, little tiny company. And I come to the end of the year, there was no cash, right? I didn't know that profit is a theory, right? And so just not having that skill, or someone might be really great in finance, but they're not any good in marketing. So sometimes it's a skill problem, but 80% of it, you can solve those skills. You can get those skills if you can change your psychology. But when you accept that, oh my God, the market's down, or oh my God, the economy in our area is down, when you allow the environment to control your psychology, you're not gonna win. There's an interesting guy named Mel Fisher that you may remember from back in the 90s. He was, if the name lingers in your mind, he was a guy that spent, I think it was 27 years, if I remember correctly, looking for this Spanish galleon that was supposed to be filled with gold. You remember that?
Of course.
And he found it after 27 years. Now here's my question for you, Jim.
Yeah.
5 years into it, you've worked every day for 5 years and you found nothing. What are you gonna do? And how are you gonna raise more money because you have run out of money? 10 years into it, 15 years into it, 20 years into it. So I say to people in business, I say to them, you wanna understand psychology? Here's the biggest challenge for most businesses. They think they've maxed what's possible because they think they've tried everything. Once you believe that, your belief controls you and you miss the innovations, you miss the answers. This guy found that gold because he had 3 beliefs. First belief was there's a treasure out there, and he was certain it was out there, even though he didn't have any absolute evidence, and that certainty drove him. But if you knew there was treasure in your business, that's not enough. You gotta also believe, I will find it. And you also have to believe it's worth it, right? And without those 3 beliefs, he never would have found it. And so changing the psychology of the leader is what will change a business faster than anything else. Changing their skills will also do it, but lots of people have the skill and they don't execute. And you and I both know, execution is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is trumped by execution every single day. And that execution comes by changing the psychology.
I can't even look for a Lego with my son for 10 minutes. If I can't find the piece in 10 minutes, I forget 27 years. But I guess my second question on that idea of destroying the limitations is, how do you do it? Should more leaders be in psychotherapy? Should they be mountain climbing? What are the mechanics of changing a limitation? I mean, after all, if it's your own limitation, presumably, you put it there. You're probably attached to it on some level.
Well, unconsciously maybe, but let's just talk about how it happens. People are not one way. We are a reflection of the states we're living in. To change the leader's state, learning how to change your own state. Because people, one of the silliest questions I get asked is, you're not really that happy, are you? You have bad days, don't you? Well, of course they have, bad times. But I don't have bad days anymore, and it's not BS, it's because I've trained myself like an athlete to go in these peak states so often that they're just natural for me. It's like building a muscle. So it's not like I'm so smart or I'm just so positive. It's just like, why would I waste my time stressing out? I have a 90-second rule. I'll stress for 90 seconds, but stress is not going to solve it. Let me put myself back in a different state. And so the way I do that is I use my body, because I've done this with athletes for decades, with billionaire businessmen. If you see somebody gets in a slump of some sort, great athlete, Paul Tudor Jones, one of the greatest financial traders in the history of the world, I've coached him for 22 years. When I came to see him, this is a man who made 200% in 1987 when the stock market had its biggest single crash in a day, percentage-wise still. He made 200% for his clients, more money than anybody could dream of. Then he went to the moon and he went down to earth and then he lost money. So I was brought in to turn him around. Well, how do you turn a guy like that around? Yeah. I watched him. His shoulders were down. He was breathing like this. He's sitting like this all the time because he'd been through these failures and it started to get stored in his body. Now in this state, this man is a genius, couldn't do it. So I watched films when he was at his best and he's like standing up and he's doing this. He's this, what do I do? Sell this, make this happen. And the movement, the intensity, the way he used his face. And so I showed him a video of himself today and showed him a video when he was at his best. And I said, what do you notice? He was like, those are two different people. I said, yes. But we can get back to this guy by just using the body first. Trying to use your mind, you'll go in circles. But I've been teaching for years that a radical change in your body instantly changes your biochemistry. 38 years I've taught it. 2 years ago at Harvard, they did a study, scientifically proven what I've been teaching all these decades, where they call it power postures.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman stance.
Yeah, standing
right?
like Wonder Woman or Superman for 2 minutes.
Yep.
Or like you see guys like this, pulled back like that for 2 minutes. Literally increases your testosterone in your biochemistry within 2 minutes by 20%. It drops cortisol by 18%, which is the stress hormone, and increases your chance of taking a more risky behavior, which is what's required of a leader, by 33%, 2 minutes. Now that's just standing a certain way. I show people use their voice, their body, their movement, which is 10 times more dynamic than just a stiff stance. And when you change your state, your mental, emotional state, you change your performance. Haven't you had times when you have can't remember how to spell a difficult word like the, or your own email
really
or something
tired, like can't remember
like what
your
it is.
Cousin's name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've had times where you're in the flow where after you do something, you're like, I did that. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
Absolutely.
I was in the flow. Well, you're the same person. The only difference is state. So training yourself to be in a peak state every day. I mean, the state of the union, the state of the company is the culture, and the culture starts at the head. Whoever that leader is, their state impacts everybody else. So training yourself to be in that peak state is the key to it all.
Can anyone be a leader? And I ask that for sort of two reasons. One, just my own curiosity from supply and demand, right? If everybody's a leader, then who's a follower? And we got to have leaders and followers. But secondly, I'm curious what you think about innate qualities versus teachable qualities.
First, let's just look at what's the scarcest resource we probably need in our society today. It's great leaders. I mean, look at the political process that we're going through right now. If there's any evidence that we're hurting for leadership, you see it in government, you see it in businesses. There aren't that many great leaders now. So then the presupposition for a lot of people will be then, well, it must be this innate talent. There are people that are born and upbred, maybe born with more certainty, like people are willing to take more risks. There certainly are people of that nature. But anyone can be a leader in something that they decide to become masterful in. You can be the leader of your own life. Everyone should lead their own life. You should be the leader of your family. And so I think everyone can be a leader, but there are different types and different styles of leadership. And I believe that leadership is a skill. It starts with having something that you're committed to that's larger than yourself, a vision that's bigger than yourself. If there's a large enough vision, if you have enough passion for that vision, then you're gonna have enough drive to actually start to execute. And then leadership is the capacity to discipline your disappointment. Because you're gonna have to go through failures, and instead of making failures, you have to learn from those. And then it comes down to the skill of influence, once again. And so anyone can learn, anyone can develop a vision, anyone can uncover their passion, anyone can learn to influence. That's a skill that can be learned. So yes, leadership can be taught, and leadership can be learned. Can everyone be a leader? The answer is yes, because there's so many different things to lead in, and it's not a situation like you have to follow me for you to lead. I just have to know what it is I truly stand for.